The myth of neutral technology, including artificial intelligence. Welcome to another in the series of What is AI? I'm Gary Locklear. Thank you for joining me. I've just noticed that it's getting near the end of spring. I was hoping to be done with this full series, but my other vocation of college professor is getting in the way a little bit. So the next ones I might have to update to summer. Don't worry, I think I will get to these along the way. So my thesis is the myth of neutral technology. Cute picture. In the old days, we used monkeys to say, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Today, I guess it's the opposite with technology, isn't it? We do all that with technology. Is technology a neutral tool, or has it purposely been designed to manipulate us? Since technology is created by human beings, technology reflects an image of its human creators. Computer scientists and information technologists are sub-creators. We design, build, and run the technology that impacts everyone globally. Rather than merely a neutral tool, technology reflects the thoughts, attitudes, and vision of its human creators, both good and bad. What flows from the human heart and mind into technology can be beautiful or ugly, good or evil, depending upon the condition of the sub-creator's heart and mind. When I say neutral, I mean neutral in a moral and ethical sense. Much of today's technology, especially social media, and especially some forms of AI, and today, I guess when people say AI, they're really thinking about large language model chatbots like ChatGPT. Much of that has been carefully crafted to manipulate us and prey upon our fallen, sinful nature. Martin Luther defined sin as curved in on ourselves. This is exactly the tactic exploited in social media and much of technology. So let's delve into the myth of neutral technology. I was going to entitle this TMNT, but for old folks, or maybe with folks that have small children, TMNT as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so maybe that won't work. Let's do a little bit of review in this series. What is artificial intelligence? I shared three talking points with you. First of all, AI is human attempts to fashion intelligent entities. Certainly, those entities that we're concerned about are computer systems. So, another way of phrasing this is autonomous computers acting with plan and purpose. The computer doing the work with plan and purpose. And the third aspect, what's AI? Computers performing actions that require intelligence to do. In class, as a college professor, I always subject my students to Chuck Norris. Do you know the Chuck Norris stick? If not, you'll have to look this up, but I think many people are familiar with these famous Chuck Norris facts. For example, Chuck Norris' computer doesn't have a control key. If you look on your keyboard, there's a key that either says Control or CTRL. But Chuck Norris' computer doesn't have a control key. Chuck is always in control. In a similar fashion, Chuck Norris' computer doesn't have an escape key either. No one escapes from Chuck Norris. But these attempts at folly here point out a very serious question. Who's in control of technology? Are we in control of technology? You know that old incorrect adage that people always bring up, oh, computers only do what they were programmed to do. That's not true. It was never true in the past, and it's certainly not true in the 21st century world of AI. Computers only do what they're programmed to do? No. And when we speak about control, let's consider the worldview of those who program the computers, or perhaps more importantly, those who are in charge of the folks who create these systems. Rather than just a benign, neutral tool, has technology been created to manipulate us? Oh, could that possibly be? Did you note the sarcasm in my voice? Yes, it has. Let's look at a few examples. I'm going to focus on social media, but you'll see how this applies to artificial intelligence, and we'll see that very explicitly at the end. Oh, by the way, I happened to overhear two of my friends discussing their children the other day, Zeb and Zeke. Zeb told Zeke, he said, while other children spend all their day, online doing weird things, my son spends his entire day reading a book. Zeke was pretty impressed. He says, that's great. What's it called? Zeb said, Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, former Facebook vice president says social media is destroying society with dopamine-driven faceback loops. This is Chanmath Palihapitiya. I sometimes can pronounce Indian names. I have many Indian students. Chamath, Palihapitiya. He made waves a number of years ago after he spoke out about his tremendous guilt over growing the social network Facebook, which he feels has, in his word, eroded the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other. In the beginning, he says there was not much thought given to the long-term negative consequences of developing such a platform. He says, though, I think in the back deep recesses of our minds, we kind of knew something bad could happen. Facebook's first president, this is Sean Parker. God only knows what it is doing to our children's brains. Now, if you know anything, young people will not admit to being on Facebook. A number are, but that's not the in thing to be. There are other social media platforms, probably much worse than Facebook. Here's Sean Parker. The Facebook founders purposely created something addictive. With each like and comment, Facebook is exploiting human psychology on purpose to keep users hooked on a social validation feedback loop, Parker said. He added that it is exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with. Even the creators, even the administrators of Facebook in the beginning admitted that this was a manipulative platform. This is a long time ago. This is an article from 2014, more than 10 years old. When technologies manipulate our emotions. There was a big brouhaha because Facebook and Cornell University wanted to figure out, hey, are people going to be influenced by what they see on social media? Imagine that was actually the answer is, of course, yes. And what they did is they had a group of about 500,000 Facebook users. Unbeknownst to the users, some they seeded positive, happy, uplifting things in their news feeds, and others they seeded sad, depressing things in their news feeds. And guess what? That was reflected in how those users reacted in the social media platform. They deliberately manipulated the news feeds to demonstrate what they called widespread social contagion in social media. Yeah. Can it influence us? You bet. So, question, is technology neutral? Or does it reflect an image of its human creators, both good and bad? I will freely admit, I used to think at one time that technology was neutral. Tech is just a tool. It's like a hammer. It's neither good or bad. Now, it could be used for good or bad, but the tool itself, that's just neutral, right? Wrong. I should have known better. I should have thought about this a little more. Technology itself is not neutral. We're not talking about the people who use it. We're talking about the technology itself. Why is that? Because technology reflects our image. If we create something, some of who we are, our image, our attributes and characteristics are in that thing. You may recognize this object in Millennium Park in downtown Chicago. This is my wife and I standing in front of Cloud Gate. Nobody calls it Cloud Gate, it's called the Bean, right? And people stand in front of that and take pictures of it and reflect on what it's doing, etc. Yeah. Those images certainly, they're not us, but they absolutely reflect us. From a Christian worldview perspective, tech should reflect its human creators, just as human beings reflect an image of their creator. In that case, technology is created with intent of good or bad, never neutral. By the way, my friend Steven told me the other day, he said, I know you think tech's not neutral, but my name is neutral. And I said, how is Stephen neutral? He says, because the pH in Stephen is in the middle. Oh, sorry, that's a chemistry joke. pH. You don't have to look very far to find headlines about like this for all social media. Technology is not neutral. How online companies manipulate billions of minds. Technology is not neutral. Instead, it is purposefully created for good or evil. Rather than a neutral, benign tool, tech is purposefully created to be beneficial and valuable or base and vile. This applies to all technology, including artificial intelligence. We all use both good and bad technology all the time. Now, here's one thing to remember. Good technology, morally and ethically good technology, that is, an app created with a good intent, can be used for bad purposes. Good tech can be used for bad. Conversely, bad technology can be used for good purposes. But using bad tech for good requires moral discernment and understanding. If you subscribe to me that Facebook and other social media platforms, let's not even get into TikTok. By that I mean, don't be involved with TikTok. Whoa, they were created to manipulate us. Now, if you understand that, if you have a discerning heart and soul, can you use Facebook and other social media for good? You can. My wife is a great example of that. Um, Me, not so much. This boils down to the attitude of the user's heart. In computer science, we talk about the concept of interaction, users working with the tool to solve the problem. So not only do we worry about the maker of the tech, their intent for good or evil, but you also have to worry about us, our intent in the interaction of good and evil. Both attitudes are important and involved, and both reflect an image of its creator. You don't have to again look far. You'll find articles about like this, how Google and Facebook hooked us and how to break the habit. Rarely has a thumbs up led to such bad feeling. Back in 2009, when Rosenstein created Facebook's like button, now he's dedicated himself to atoning for it. Facebook is not a neutral force, and neither are its algorithms, privacy and social media experts say. Algorithms determine what Facebook users see on Facebook. But these algorithms are constructed by humans and therefore reflect human values, the article mentions. The discussion of Facebook and alleged bias started after former Facebook workers claimed that the site's trending topics section largely suppressed news stories of interest to conservative readers. These former employees also said they were told to add selected stories into the trending topics section, even if they were not popular enough to warrant such placement. Another article mentions if Google is biased, so are its algorithms. They quote former Google employee Damore, author of a famous memo against Google's diversity policies that got him fired, mentions how they specifically manipulate things to match their own worldview. By the way, this particular article, did you notice the date? Well, that's pretty old. If you pay attention, you notice that there's been a love-hate relationship between mainstream media and tech. In the early 2000s, mainstream media loved technology and everything that it did. And then in the 2010s, that started to erode. And at this point in time, just before COVID, the mainstream media was really taking big tech to the woodshed. During COVID, though, that all changed. You notice how the mainstream media elevated science and big tech as they could do no wrong. They were good. They were going to be our savior. Now what? Now it's time for us to think for ourselves. Let's say you don't agree with me. Let's say you believe that technology is just a neutral tool. Okay. Regardless of whether technology is neutral, and I don't think so, people are not neutral. I'll just use myself as an example. I am both good and bad, morally and ethically. I am, in a Lutheran Christian worldview, simultaneously saint and sinner. The creation and use of technology reflects the attitude of my heart. I could use any tech for good or bad purposes. But you still think that technology is just benign and neutral? Maybe you haven't noticed what you've been using. In computer science, there's a subject called dark patterns. Dark patterns are user interface practices that intentionally degrade the user experience in order to shape user behavior. One author puts it this way and calls dark patterns deceptive patterns. Deceptive patterns are tricks used in websites and apps that make you do things that you didn't mean to do, like buying something or signing up for something. The designers and creators are purposefully manipulating us. Consider, you're on an online shopping site. How easy is it to buy something? One click, that's it. What if you change your mind? How easy it is to undo that. Or what if you want to contact somebody about a question and not talk to the AI? What if you want to cancel an order? You've probably used apps that have these shaming prompts. You know, do you want to continue using this app without supporting us? Yeah. Dark patterns are part of a new age of having technology manipulate us. Martin Luther called sin homo incurvatus in se, Latin for human beings looking inward on themselves. Humanity exhibits this inward curve on itself in relation to creation. God is the creator of all things, and in his grace gives many good things to all humanity. As a result of our inward curve, however, we do not enjoy God rightly in the things he has given us, but enjoy creation instead of the creator. We think of creation as if it were the creator, as if it were God. Luther specifically linked the incurvatus with man's use of God's gift. For Luther, it's precisely original sin which bends us inward, leading to our ignorance of the reality of God and his goodness exhibited in nature. God created everything to be used as a means of enjoying and loving him, but in sin, we make them ends in and of themselves, placing a weight upon them they were not created to sustain. J.R.R. Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings. As a Christian, Tolkien said, in God's image, we are sub-creators. Man is a creative being. As sub-creators, he shares in the creative power of God. Our creations bear our image and reflect what is in our hearts and in our souls. Image, in this case, refers to characteristics and attributes. It doesn't mean physical appearance. We did not originally look like God. God the Father is spirit, no physical appearance. But image refers to characteristics, attributes, things like intelligence, creativity, originally holiness with a perfect knowledge of the good. We are sub-creators made in God's image. Technology reflects its human creators. Technology is created with intent, and that intent can be good or bad. This is a picture of me. I'm at the Art Institute of Chicago. Fantastic place if you've never been there. As a matter of fact, my parents met on a blind date at the Art Institute of Chicago in World War II. So I'm thankful for the Art Institute. This is a painting by Lutheran Lucas Cranach, famous painting known as the Crucifixion, a marvelous work of art. Even non-religious people recognize the greatness of the work of Lucas Cranach. Lucas Cranach, as a painter, used his vocation to point people to Christ. The good in his heart was Christ, and that good was reflected in his work. He was a sub-creator. He used painting and images to share good with the world. Lucas Cranach, if you don't know, was a contemporary and friend of Martin Luther. Now, guess what? Artificial intelligence can create images. Are they good? Are they evil? Depends upon the attitude of the sub-creator's heart. Our creations, and the creation we're interested here is technology, computer systems, and especially AI. Our creations bear our image and reflect what's in our hearts and in our souls and in our minds. They are not neutral. Speaking of that, the other day as I parked my car, I didn't notice I left the shifter in neutral. Things only went downhill from there. We all use good and bad technology all the time. Good technology can be used by good people for good things. Bad technology can be used by bad people for evil intention. Good technology could be used for bad purposes. Bad technology could be used for good purposes. But using technology for good requires moral discernment and understanding. It requires a sound foundation. It requires an effective worldview. Why can tech be good or bad? Attitude of the user's heart. Jesus in Luke 6, no good tree produces bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. The ESV translates it this way. The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of the evil treasure produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. It's about what's in your heart. Interesting article. How social media is designed around sin. Social media preys on our sinful nature and encourages us to turn into ourselves. How many likes and followers do I have? How many times has this been retweeted? I don't even know what we say now that Twitter is X. Re-Xed? How many times do we retweet? Yeah, you get it. That phrase that was used with Facebook, a dopamine feedback loop. Dopamine. Ah, I feel better. Got to get more. Got to get more. Turned inward on ourselves. That's sin. This author puts it this way. Religion may offer an important explanation as why this social media platform is so problematic, both for society and for individual well-being. Human depravity, original sin are perennial themes. Augustine and Martin Luther are known for describing the human condition as incurvatus in se, curved inward on ourselves. Rather than living a life that is aligned toward God and others, human sinfulness directs our life inward, towards self-justification, self-gratification, self-aggrandizement. The notion that sin has warped, twisted, maimed, and ruined human goodness is as ubiquitous in theology as Facebook and social media are in modern life. This means that according to user-centered design, human sinfulness ought to be accounted for and perhaps even exploited. when creating products for the digital age. Designers must ask themselves the question, how do we influence behavior through the medium of software? And we will, regardless. You've likely worked with tech enough and read about and seen it enough to be suspicious. Is there a cult of technology? Absolutely. One example that we'll touch on in a future video is the Church of AI. Anthony Lewandowski states that the way of the future, tax-exempt 501c3 organization in the state of California, way of the future will focus on the realization, acceptance, and worship of a Godhead based upon artificial intelligence developed through computer hardware and software. So now we have the Church of AI. Even beyond that, though, it seems that many people are wrapped up in this cult of technology. We see this in the concept of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we all got to do STEM. And STEM is all there is. And if you don't know STEM, how can you be a productive member of society? And here's a quote from a biographer of Albert Einstein, Joseph Pearce. An education obsessed with science, technology, engineering, and math to the exclusion or neglect of the humanities stems the growth and development of the human person, on the one hand, and unleashes technology without ethical constraints on the other. Interesting. It stunts the growth of the human person and unleashes unethical technology. Only a fool would advocate such an education, that is, one only focused on STEM. And Albert Einstein was no fool. Einstein was not a Christian. Polytheist with Jewish cultural roots, not a Christian, but he certainly thought a lot about human beings and recognized some things. So, some quotes from Einstein. It is not enough that you should understand about applied science in order that your work may increase man's blessings. Applied science, that's technology. Computer science, AI. It is not enough that you should understand about applied science in order that your work may increase man's blessings. Concern for man himself and his fate must always form the chief interest of all technical endeavors. And then the commentator says, those architects of modern education obsessed with abandoning the humanities in favor of the so-called STEM subjects should pause to consider the words of Albert Einstein. Writing in the New York Times in 1952, Einstein warned of the dangers of teaching scientific STEM while abandoning the human roots of education. It is not enough to teach a man a specialty, Einstein wrote, through it, he may become a kind of useful machine, but not a harmoniously developed personality. It was essential, Einstein continued, that the student acquire an understanding of and a lively feeling for values. Specifically, he must acquire a vivid sense of the beautiful and the morally good. In the absence of such a well-balanced education, a student, possessing nothing but his limited specialized knowledge, more closely resembles a well-trained dog than a harmoniously developed person. Or maybe we'd say today, a well-trained computer or robot. So what do we need? We need technology with a soul, a Lutheran Christian perspective, technology that is created with a knowledge of the good and with a desire to assist our neighbor. We need an understanding of the human condition, which Christianity rightly shows us. Originally created in God's image, while we still possess that image, it is tarnished. We are blind and dead to God until we are recreated. And even those of us who have been recreated are simultaneously saint and sinner. That old Adam, that sinful nature, is terribly strong within us. We need an appreciation of the doctrine of creation to know where we came from and why we have dignity and worth. Are we the result of an accidental biological process acting without plan and purpose over billions of years? No. Are the result of a purposeful, intelligent design and plan? Yes, we are. We need an awareness of the incarnation of Christ. God did not eschew the physical world. Physical world is not evil in and of itself. Christ took on a body. There is goodness. There can be goodness in the physical world for sure. In a future video, we're going to talk about, is AI driving us toward a new Gnosticism? That is, only spiritual, mental is good and body is bad? Technology with a soul. Let me share a little historic snippet with you about this. Many don't know that the grandfather of computer science, Wilhelm Schickard, was a Lutheran pastor and professor at the Lutheran University of Tübingen in Germany. In 1623, more than 400 years ago, Schickard created the world's first mechanical calculator, a device that could add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Now, this is not a computer, not by a long shot, but Schickard thought deeply about what I call the grand ideas of computer science: algorithms, abstraction, automation, and more. But even more importantly, what Schickard did and why he did it is profound. Why did Schickard create the world's first mechanical calculator? Was it to win the Nobel Prize? Was it to become rich and famous? Was it so everybody remembered his name 400 years later? None of those things, right? He did it to love and serve his neighbor. His good friend was the Lutheran astronomer Johann Kepler. These are two of my favorite scientists of all times, Schickard and Kepler. It was Kepler who demonstrated the heliocentric model of the solar system, sun at the center. Everybody points to Copernicus, but it was Lutherans who pushed Copernicus, a Catholic, to publish his ideas, and it was Lutherans who grasped upon those ideas in the Lutheran University. And it was Kepler who spent 20 years of mathematical investigation demonstrating that, yes, indeed, the planets do revolve around the sun. In a letter to Schickard, Kepler complained about the difficulty of the computations. And Schickard said, "What can I do to help my friend?" So in the fall of 1622 and the spring of 1623, he created the world's first mechanical calculator as a means to help Kepler solve his problems. This is what Lutherans call vocation. Rather than curved in on himself, he sought to love and serve his neighbor. I've mentioned several times good and bad tech used for good and bad in different ways. We should consider just for a little bit the concept of unintended consequences. We know there are bad applications, but even good tech can be used for bad purposes. But good apps often have unintended consequences. Perhaps the computer itself is the ultimate unintended consequence. But let's just consider one example. Consider email. Great for communication. Oh, wonderful. 50 years ago, who could imagine you can get a letter across the United States, across the globe in a matter of minutes? Unbelievable. But this has brought about some unintended consequences, right? Spam, hoaxes, phishing, hacking, and a time management nightmare. Ah, good and bad. Well, by the way, if AI robots can't find stoplights and CAPTCHAs, should they be driving our cars? Don't you find it interesting that several times a day you have to prove that you're not a robot? Yeah, reminds me of what my boss told me the other day. My boss told me, you have two parts of your brain, the left and the right. In the left side, there's nothing right. And in the right side, there's nothing left. Here's an example to ponder. Replica, the AI companion who cares, always here to listen and talk, always on your side. I'm not advocating this at all. But if you're not familiar, read it for yourself. Here I am at replica.com. An AI companion who is eager to learn and would love to see the world through your eyes. Replica is always ready to chat when you need an empathetic friend. Look at all these wonderful reviews. I knew right away I'd found a positive and helpful companion for life. My mood, life, and relationships improved almost instantly, and I changed for the better. Your replica will always be by your side no matter what you're up to. Chat about your day, do fun and relaxing activities together, share real life experience in AR, catch up on video calls, and so much more. Look, explore the world. You can use augmented reality, virtual reality, where you and see, here you are and your virtual friend right there in your AR goggles. Share precious moments with your AI friend in real time. Well, maybe I'll just let you ponder this. In a future video, we'll talk a little bit about these kinds of things. But for now, if you haven't come across these things, you can ponder them. So, how does a Christian worldview inform our approach to AI? Well, first of all, a Christian worldview helps us understand human nature. Here's a quote from someone who's not a Christian, but apropos to us. Technology feels disempowering because we haven't built it around an honest view of human nature. And whose view of human nature will we use? A Christian worldview gives us the correct view of human nature. This leads directly to a conversation about ethics, which is a future video also, AI and ethics. Who decides right and wrong? Who determines what is good and bad in an ethical and moral sense? The answer for us, of course, is Christ does. The ethical standard must be the Word of God, an absolute that lives outside of ourselves. Ethics for Christians, in the word of the Lutheran philosopher Dietrich Bonhoeffer, must be the knowledge of the good, and that's good with a capital G. Ethics is all about knowing the good. It's not knowing good and evil. That was that tree that caused problems in Genesis. And a third helpful insight from a Christian worldview is the concept of vocation, especially as Lutherans understand it. We all have multiple vocations. A vocation is everything we do in all of our stations of life. It's not just church work. Vocation means to love and serve our neighbor. Vocation in computer science is we love and serve our neighbor by creating true, good, and beautiful computer systems as problem-solving tools. So, how do we approach AI? Well, I'm going to stick with this alliteration, hopeful hesitation. I'm not going to jump in to everything with both feet. We want to be discerning and understand it. But as we've seen already, there's lots of good things with AI. In order to be discerning, we have to understand the technology and its designers, creators, their worldview, their ethical foundation. We always have to use our God-given abilities with anything, our rational mind and discerning soul. In Acts 14, Paul and Barnabas are in Lystra. They heal a man, and the people want to offer a sacrifice to them. Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news that you should turn from these vain things to a living God who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. In past generations, he allowed all the nations to walk in their own way. Yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good by giving you rains from heaven, fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this. And for those of you that have actually watched this, I really appreciate it. Please send me comments, suggestions, corrections. I've already talked to a number of people, and I've got probably more future videos than I'll have time for to answer some of these questions, but keep them coming. It definitely helps me. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Come, O children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. What man is there who desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, may God richly bless your day.